Hey, what's up, everybody? It's just Charles, and I welcome you guys to another episode of the Dreamerspro Show, where we cover everything from sports, hot topics, classic debates, entertainment, and we give you guys a fresh perspective on things and how we see it. Now, you all know that Kawhi Leonard is my favorite player in the NBA currently. He reminds me a lot of Kobe Bryant, who's my favorite player of all time. And I think that there's a good amount of Jordan and Kobe fans who get nostalgic whenever they watch Kawhi Leonard play. He has very similar moves, right? And there's no surprise to that because he trained with Kobe Bryant in 2013 when Greg Popovich told him during All-Star Weekend just to stay in the air. Kobe Bryant said sure he would do that. The following season, Kawhi Leonard came back, and I remember the first game he played against the Sacramento Kings at the time when DeMarcus Cousins was the man. At the end of that game, the San Antonio Spurs won that game, and DeMarcus Cousins was like, yeah, I heard he was training with Kobe. He's good. He's really good. And he started mirroring Kobe Bryant's game. And, so for us Kobe and Jordan fans, we really enjoy watching Kawhi Leonard play. But with Kawhi, is just not all about aesthetics, right? Kawhi Leonard is a hell of a performer in the playoffs. And during his run with the Toronto Raptors, when he led that team in the 2018-2019 season to the NBA championship, he led the playoffs in points, rebounds, and steals. And he scored, the only two players to score more points than Kawhi Leonard in a playoff run were Michael Jordan and LeBron James. That's the type of year that he had with the Toronto Raptors. And that's why I think he's arguably the best playoff performer we currently have going in the NBA. That may sound controversial, but if you go and look at his numbers, the numbers say so, at least in the Western Conference. Right now, if we're talking about currently now, if LeBron was younger, it'll be a different thing. But last year in the playoffs, right, when Kawhi Leonard was doing his thing, in the 11 games that he played, he was playing about 39 minutes a game, but he was scoring 30.4 points per game, 30 points per game. He was shooting 57.3% from the think 57%. That's better than Kevin Durant. He was shooting 39.3% from the three-point line, 88% from the free throw line, getting you 7.7 rebounds, 4.4 assists, only 2 turnovers, and 2.1 steals per game, and 0.8 in blocks. The last time we saw Kawhi Leonard play in the NBA playoffs, arguably, he was the best performer, at least in the Western Conference. But what happened? When he tore his Achilles, when he tore his ACL last season in the playoffs in the second round after they tied up the series with the Utah Jazz, a series that most people picked the Clippers to lose. And I remember Stephen A. Smith, I think after the first round in the playoffs, he went ahead and said that Donovan Mitchell was better than Karl Malone. That's how much hype there was surrounding, the Utah Jazz. After he tore his ACL, or he had a partial tear, whatever it was, I and Skip Bayless were one of the few people that felt that he could possibly make a return this season. Some people didn't think he was going to make a return. I think Shannon Sharp said he would wait and see. Chris Broussard said he didn't think that Kawhi Leonard was going to return this year. But I thought he would return, and I've been saying this, especially for people that have been watching this channel for the last few months now. Y'all will know that I have been saying that Kawhi Leonard will most likely return during All-Star break, around that All-Star break time, given the fact that, if you do the research on how long it takes to recover from that type of injury, and I think he did his surgery in July and in the time, and then for him to ramp it up. So I thought he was possibly going to return. Some people were kind of looking at me sideways. Well, finally, it looks like as if we have some concrete evidence to support my prediction of Kawhi Leonard returning this season. We have some concrete evidence, and I want to get into this article here from CBS Sports, and it also has to do with some of the reporting from Chris Haynes. And I want to get into this article here and really break this thing down. So let's get into the article right here. The article starts off, Kawhi Leonard, a strong possibility to return this season as ACL rehab is ahead of schedule per report. After having surgery to repair a partial tear in his right ACL on July 13th, 2021, Kawhi Leonard has been considered a long shot to return and play for the Clippers this season, particularly with how cautiously teams have handled Leonard over the years. But there's good news on that front for Los Angeles per Yahoo's Chris Haynes, who reported live on TNT's Sunday Clippers broadcast that Leonard is ahead of schedule in his rehab and a strong possibility for his return this season. The article continues, if this happens, and assuming Paul George gets back to full strength upon his return from a torn elbow ligament, it would obviously force us to rethink the Western Conference power structure come playoff times. Indeed, Haynes says multiple Clippers players told him they would not be concerned with their playoff seed, believing that if fully healthy, they'll be favorites over most teams in the West. There's a lot of speculation baked in here. For starters, just as a positive update on Leonard's rehab. And at the moment, setbacks are always a possibility. And if he does come back, we don't know when that will be or how effective he'll be right away. It would be hard to jump right into playoff basketball after close to a year off. So according to Chris Haynes, there's a very strong possibility that Kawhi Leonard will return this season. And I think it has nothing to do with hope. Has nothing to do with hope. In the beginning, we were hopeful, at least some of us that wanted Kawhi Leonard to come back. Kawhi Leonard is my favorite basketball player. So I was very hopeful, right? When everybody was saying there's no way he was going to come back. At that time, it was hope. But now there's some concrete evidence to say that, listen, Kawhi Leonard most likely will come back because it's a very high possibility. Why? Because they said he's ahead of schedule for his rehab. And if you're ahead of schedule, I've seen images out there, videos out there of him training and doing all this stuff. It means that the likelihood of him coming back is very, very, very high. Otherwise, why even make this report? Why would Chris Haynes go on live on national TV and put something out there and put his credibility out there, put his reputation out there to say something that he said that because he believes that there's a high possibility that this guy's going to come back. As we currently speak, the Clippers are 19-19. They have a 19-19 record, and I think they're currently the number 8th seed, if I'm not mistaken, in the Western Conference. So for me, it's been very hard to make an assessment of this team this season, given the fact that they just have not been healthy. The Clippers have played this entire season now virtually without their two best players. Paul George hasn't played, I think, in 2-3 weeks now, right? So it's hard for me to get a pulse on this team and say, okay, this team is going to be this team is going to be that, when nobody's healthy. No one is healthy, right? Now, I've said it before and I'll say it again. There's some things that the Clippers have improved. And the thing to me that stands out the most about this team versus last year's team is their improved defense. Last year, I think they were giving up about 109 points per game. This season, they're giving up about 104. That's a very big difference. They've improved as a defensive team. I think Tyronn Lue and his coaching staff has really installed some very good defensive principles and schemes with this team. They're playing much better on defense because they have to, right? When you're missing that much offense in Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, you have to rely on your defense. And that's the reason why you see the Clippers in a lot of close games. And it can go either way, right? If you have your two stars, they win a lot of those games. I think the Clippers they'll probably be a top 4 seed in the Western Conference right now if they have Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. But you could say that about other teams too, right? They're not the only teams that are going through the injury bug. And, so they just have to deal with it in this par for the course. All I know is that the last time we saw a fully healthy Clippers team, they tied it up with the Jazz. That's all I know. The last time they were fully healthy, they tied it up with the Jazz, and as I said before, a lot of people picked the Utah Jazz to beat them in that series. They won in Utah, for God's sakes, without Kawhi Leonard in Game 5 with just Paul George. So the unbeatable Utah Jazz were beaten by a Clippers team that didn't even have their best player with them. So to me, I think the hardest teams to beat this year in the Western Conference are the Suns and the Warriors, unless something miraculous happens with the Lakers. The Lakers have won 4 out of their last 5 games. Let's see how they perform over the next 5 games, and then we'll begin to understand how the Lakers are going to, play. But as it stands right now, it looks as if there's a possibility that the Clippers are going to end up playing one of the top seeds in the first round, unless something miraculous happens. But that's what I think is going to happen. And I think if the Clippers are fully healthy, I would give them the edge over the Suns because I thought they were better than the Suns last year. So I think they're going to be better than the Suns. And I think it would be a toss-up between them and the Golden State Warriors. Why is that? Because number one, I think they match up very well. We're still waiting for Klay Thompson to make his return. And when he does return, we still have to see how he's going to look after not playing basketball, I think, for close to 2 years now. So there's also that kind of variable out there that we have to take into consideration. So if it was the Clippers versus the Warriors, I think it would be a toss-up. But as we currently speak, I think the only thing Clipper fans need to be focusing on is staying alive and staying afloat. Nothing else. Don't get ahead of yourself. We're still in January. This is just an update. Doesn't mean that Kawhi Leonard is walking through the door next week or Paul George is walking through the door next week. I think he injured his elbow or something like this. So for now, they're still in survival mode. But to me, I think if they can manage to stay afloat, at least in that 7th, 8th spot in the Western Conference, and these guys who come back and get healthy, I think they'll be able to ramp it up by the time playoff comes around, and I'm putting my money on them. That's what I think. So what I want to know from you guys is, number one, what do you think about this report? Number two, what do you think about the things that I said? Whatever you guys think, please leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section below. Again, if you enjoyed the video, be sure to make sure you go ahead and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and hit the notification bell to be notified whenever we drop our content. Once again, this is Charles here from Dreamerspro, wishing you guys an amazing day and catch you guys on the next episode. Peace.